Back to our channel. Now we are going to start the deep pectoral fascia and also the muscles pectoral region and clinical anatomy. So by this we are going to complete this chapter. First we'll start with deep pectoral fascia. So if you see what is deep pectoral fascia, let us find out. It's nothing but the covering the pectoralis major muscle. So if you see here, this is the pectoralis major muscle, and the lining which is lining the pectoralis muscle is called as deep pectoral fascia. So it's mainly thin and it's closely attached to the muscle by numerous septa passing between the fascicular muscle, and it is attached superiorly to clavicle. So if we say superiorly, this is a clavicle muscle, so superiorly it is attached to the clavicle, right? And and is superiorly attached to the clavicle and anteriorly to the sternum. So superiorly to clavicle, anteriorly to the sternum, and also superior laterally it is attached to the laterally it passes over infraclavicular fossa. In the inferior side of the clavicle you have an infraclavicular fossa. It passes by the infraclavicular fossa and also to the deltopectoral groove to become continuous with the fascia covering the deltoid, right? And inferior laterally the fascia curves around the inferior lateral border of pectoralis major. You can see here this pectoralis major. It turns inferior laterally. The fascia runs around the inferior lateral border of pectoralis major to become continuous with axillary fascia. You can see here it next becomes continuous with the axillary fascia, and inferiorly it is continuous with the fascia over the thorax and rectus sheath. So this is about deep pectoral fascia. Now we'll see the origin and insertion of pectoralis major first. So if you see this red color is the origin of pectoralis major muscle, and this blue color is insertion of pectoralis major muscle. So let us find out at where it is inserted and originating. So first we'll see originating. So pectoralis major origin from anterior surface. You can see anterior surface medial half of clavicle, right? From here anterior surface medial half of clavicle and half of breadth of anterior surface of manubrium. Here you have manubrium, so half of the manubrium, and sternum up to 6 costal cartilage. So you can see up to 6 costal cartilage means up to schiphisternal joint it is getting its origin, and aponeurosis of external oblique muscle of abdomen. You can see aponeurosis of external oblique muscle of abdomen. So this is the origin of pectoralis major. So where it will be inserted? It is inserted to the bilaminar tendon means it's inserted by means of a bilaminar tendon on the lateral lip of bicipital groove. On the lateral lip. So this will be medial lip, this will be lateral lip, right? So on the lateral lip of the bicipital groove it will attach, and the two lamina are continuous with each other inferiorly. So this is about origin and insertion of pectoralis major. We'll also see like what are the structures if you open the pectoralis major muscle, and what are the structures which will be inside the pectoralis major muscle. So first, what are the bones which are present and cartilages. So of course if you remove the pectoralis major this side, you will see the sternum, right? You will also see the ribs, right? Because you are seeing taking out pectoralis major, and also you will see the costal cartilages. And the fascia which you see is a clavipectoral fascia. So here in this diagram you can see this one, it's mentioned here clavipectoral fascia, right? This one. So that clavipectoral fascia will be if you open the pectoralis major, and the muscles which are inside the pectoralis major are subclavius. Subclavius is just below the clavicle, right? So that one you will find. You will also find pectoralis minor, of course, serratus anterior, which will be on the sides, and you will also find the intercostal muscles which will be in between the ribs. You will also find the upper parts of biceps brachii, some upper parts over here, and also you will find the coracobrachialis. And the vessels, of course, you will find the axillary vessels, and the nerves are nothing but cords of brachial plexus along with their branches. So these are all which you see if you remove the pectoralis major, and if you see inside, those are all the bones, cartilages, everything which you find. And next we'll go to the bilaminar tendon of pectoralis major. So actually what it is doing, it's a muscle is inserted by bilaminar tendon into lateral lip of intertubular sulcus of humerus. So for the insertion sake you need this bilaminar tendon, right? So anterior lamina is thicker. I will show this by diagram, another diagram. If you check out here, the pectoralis major muscle is divided into anterior lamina and posterior lamina, and if you see the anterior lamina, it's thicker and it is shorter than the posterior lamina, and it receives mainly two strata of muscle fibers, which are superficial fibers from clavicle and deep fibers from manubrium. So remember, superficial fibers from clavicle, deep fibers from manubrium come into this anterior lamina. And coming to this posterior lamina, the posterior lamina is thinner, it's longer than the anterior lamina, and it's formed by the fibers from front of sternum 2 to 6 ribs and their costal cartilage, and also from aponeurosis of external oblique muscle of abdomen. Out of this, only the fibers from sternum and aponeurosis are twisted around the lower border of chest of muscle. So the twisted fibers form anterior axillary fold, and these move upward lateral to get inserted into posterior lamina of femur. So this is about pectoralis major. Let us see how to clinically test this. So clinical testing is by clavicular head. So actually, if you see this diagram, you will see different heads of pectoralis major. So this is the clavicular head or clavicular fibers. These are the manubrium fibers. These all are the sternocostal aponeurotic fibers. This is the manubrial fibers. So as you see in different fibers of the pectoralis major muscle, the clavicular head, this one can be tested mainly by lifting a heavy table or rod, and the sternocostal head, this one, they are tested by depressing a heavy rod, or you can also extend the flexed arm against the resistance. And even the clavicular head also have another chance, like by flexing arm to the right angle, then also can clinically test the clavicular head. And press the fists against each other. If you press both fists against each other like this, even in this case you can feel the, even clinically test the pectoralis major muscle. So this is all about pectoralis major. So now we will check out the pectoralis minor, its origin and insertion. So actually pectoralis minor is getting its origin from 3, 4, 5 ribs. So you can see this is second rib because it's sternal angle 3, 4, 5. Here it's getting its origin, right? Near the costochondral junction, right, and intervening fascia covering the external intercostal muscles. So it is inserted into the medial border and upper surface of coracoid process. You can see this is coracoid process, right? So medial border and upper surface of coracoid process. That's it, very simple. So this is about pectoralis minor. Next we'll see about subclavius. So if you see the subclavius muscle, its origin is from first rib, especially the costochondral junction. So first rib, costochondral junction, it's taking its origin. Inserted to the subclavian groove in the middle 1/3 of clavicle. Yeah, subclavian groove is in the inferior side, in the middle 1/3 of clavicle. So there it will get attached. So that's it about subclavius. So now we will discuss the nerve supply of this different muscles. Till now we have discussed that is pectoralis major, minor, subclavius. So pectoralis major is supplied by medial and lateral pectoral nerves. You can see here. And action is acting as a whole. The muscle causes adduction, medial rotation of shoulder. The clavicular part produces flexion of arm. Sternocostal part is used in extension of flexed arm against resistance and also climbing. So next coming to pectoralis major, it's also supplied by medial and lateral pectoral nerves. It draws the scapula forward with serratus anterior, and it also depresses the point of shoulder and helps in forced inspiration. Next coming to subclavius. Subclavius is a nerve to subclavius from the upper trunk of brachial plexus. So very easy to remember, subclavius nerve to subclavius from the upper trunk of brachial plexus, and it mainly steadies the clavicle during movement of shoulder, or you can say it mainly stabilize the clavicle during movement of shoulder. So this is about the nerve supply of these three muscles. Next we'll discuss detail of clavipectoral fascia and also about our serratus anterior muscle. So now we'll discuss about the clavipectoral fascia. So it's actually a fibrous sheet which is situated deep to the clavicular portion. You can see deep to the clavicle, you will see the fibrous sheet, that is the clavipectoral fascia, and mainly it's deep to the clavicular portion of pectoralis major muscle, and it extends from the clavicle above to the axillary fascia below. So it extends from the clavicle above and below to the axillary fascia. So actually here will be the axillary fascia. You can see this diagram is perfect. Here you see this below, this one is the axillary fascia. So above you have the clavicle, this one is clavicle. So below you have the axillary fascia. And its upper part splits to enclose the subclavius muscle. Yeah, you can see the subclavius muscle, right? And the posterior lamina is fused to investing layer of deep cervical fascia. You can see here, investing layer of deep cervical fascia. It's connecting to the, you can see here, the posterior lamina, right? and to the axillary sheet. Yeah, the posterior, what they're saying, the posterior lamina is fused to investing layer of deep cervical fascia and also to axillary sheet, and it will also fuse to the axillary sheet, right? And inferiorly, clavipectoral fascia splits to enclose pectoralis minor muscle. Yeah, you can see here it's splitting to enclose a pectoralis minor muscle. And next, below this muscle, it continues as a suspensory ligament and which is attached to the dome of axillary fascia and helps to keep it pulled up, right? So it's pulled up mainly because of connection of this clavipectoral fascia from the pectoralis minor below to the axillary fascia by means of a suspensory ligament. So the clavipectoral fascia is mainly pierced by these structures. What? Let us check out another diagram. So you can also check out here the clavipectoral fascia from side, lateral side, and also from the side cut. So you can actually remember this mnemonic called call, that is the structures which are piercing the clavipectoral fascia, like C for cephalic vein, A for thoracoacromial artery, L for lateral pectoral nerve, L for lymphatics, especially the lymphatics are passing from the breast and also pectoral region to the apical group of axillary lymph nodes. So this is a mnemonic call to remember what are the structures piercing the clavipectoral fascia. Next we'll see the serratus anterior muscle. So here you can see the serratus anterior muscle. So its muscle is not a strictly muscle of pectoral region, but it's convenient to consider here because you can see it's also on the lateral side going towards the back side, right? So its origin is from mainly by 8 digitations from the upper 8 ribs. You will see upper 8 ribs, 1 to 8 ribs, all give its origin, and from the fascia which is covering the intervening intercostal muscles. Yeah, so there is also fascia between the between our intercostal muscles, so from that also it will take the origin, and finally it gets inserted into the costal surface of scapula along its medial border. Already we have discussed, right? So this blue color is the insertion on the costal surface. Costal surface is nothing but the anterior surface of the medial side. Mainly on the medial side, anterior surface, it will get inserted, and the first digitation is inserted from the superior angle to the root of the spine. So superior angle to the root of the spine means till here the first digitation will get attached, and the next 2 digitations are inserted to the lower on the medial border, and the lower 5 digitations are inserted to large triangular area over the inferior angle. So here, so like this, upper, middle, lower, so like this completely all the digitations are getting inserted. So who is supplying, which nerve is supplying it? The nerve to serratus anterior is nothing but a branch of the brachial plexus again, and its root value is C5, C6 and C7. So what are the actions actually? So along with the pectoralis minor, this muscle also pulls the scapula forwards around the chest wall to, you can see this diagram, right? This is the scapula, this is serratus anterior. So you can see it has a chance to push the scapula forward because it's attached to it, right? So it pulls the scapula forwards around the chest wall to protract the upper limb and pushing and punching. So to punch someone, you need the serratus anterior muscle. So its fibers are inserted to the inferior angle of scapula and pull it forward and rotate the scapula so that glenoid cavity is turned upward. In this action, serratus anterior, helped by trapezius, pulls the acromion upwards and backwards. So when the muscle is paralyzed, the medial margin of scapula gets raised specially because there only it gets inserted, right? So especially the medial border of the scapula will get enlarged, especially in the pushing movements, because for pushing you need this. So this is called winging of scapula, very important. When the winging of scapula takes place, when the serratus anterior is paralyzed, so the medial border of the costal surface of scapula will get elevated. This is called winging of scapula. So muscle is, it stabilizes the scapula during the weight carrying. So if you're carrying any heavy weight, then the serratus anterior is stabilizing it, and it's also helpful in forced inspiration. So for forced inspiration also it's useful. So what are some additional features? The paralysis of serratus anterior produce a winging of scapula in which the inferior angle and also the medial border are unduly prominent, and the patient is unable to do any pushing action, nor can he raise his hand above the head. Any attempt to do the movement make him inferior angle of scapula more prominent. So what is the clinical testing? Forward pressure with the hand against the wall. So just do it. You can feel the scapula or against the resistance offered by the examiner. Makes the inferior angle of the scapula prominent, winging of scapula if the serratus anterior is paralyzed. So if you are forcefully doing on the wall, then you can check it out. So now we'll start the clinical anatomy last part. So you can see clinical anatomy here, right? So the breast is a frequent site of carcinoma, right? Because several anatomical facts are of importance in diagnosis and treatment. Abscesses may also form in breast and may require drainage. So the following facts about the incisions of breasts are usually made radially to avoid cutting lactiferous ducts. Always remember, if you do any incision, you'll do radially but not straightly, because the lactiferous ducts may cut away, right? Next, you can see cancer cells may infiltrate the suspensory ligaments and the breast then becomes fixed. So actually, suspensory ligament is for freely, it's making the mammary gland freely move on the pectoral fascia. But if the cancerous cells in the suspensory ligament, then the breast becomes fixed, and the contraction of ligaments can cause retraction or puckering, folding of skin. So whenever you find any puckering, folding of skin, then you can suspect a suspensory ligament cancer, right? Next, you also have infiltration of lactiferous ducts and their consequent fibrosis can cause retraction. So actually, sometimes in the lactiferous ducts also there's some cancerous cells are going and causing retraction of nipple, right? And obstruction of superficial lymph nodes by cancer cells, right? Superficial lymph nodes by cancer cells can produce edema of the skin, giving rise to appearance like that of a skin of orange peel. So how the orange peel looks like that the skin appear, that is called purely orange appearance, where there is obstruction of mainly superficial lymph nodes, because superficial lymph nodes drain the skin of the breast except the nipple and areola. We know this already. So if this is blocked, then the skin cannot be drained by the lymph, so it will get edematous and it will color into orange like appearance. We do the orange. So because of communications of superficial lymphatics of breast across the midline, cancer may spread from one breast to other. So actually, this communication of superficial lymphatics is also having with the other side of the breast. So because of this, if anyone having the cancer in one side of the breast, it may sometimes also travel to the other side because of mainly midline cancer spread. And you can see here, because of communications of lymph vessels with those in abdomen, a cancer of breast may also sometimes spread to liver. Cancer cells may drop into pelvis, producing secondary state. So actually, always remember, whenever the cancer is coming rather than the primary side, then those are all called secondaries. For example, if you have cancer in breast, then if it is going to other parts, those are all different parts are called secondaries. So apart from lymphatics, cancer may also spread to segmental veins. Very important. In this connection, it is important to know that veins draining the breast communicate with the vertebral venous plexus of veins. So remember, if this veins, segmental veins are connection to the draining the breast communicate with vertebral venous plexus. So sometimes if there is any problem in veins, then it will also go to the vertebra. So through this communication, cancer can spread to vertebra and also sometimes to the brain. So self-examination is very much important to detect all this. How to do this? Inspect any symmetry of breast and nipple. Always check out the symmetry of both breasts. If they are normal, everything is normal. Change in color also an indication. Retraction of nipple is sign of cancer. Discharge from nipple on squeezing it. Palpate all four quadrants with the palm and hand and note any palpable lump. Raise the arm to feel the lymph nodes in axilla. Mammogram may also reveal the cancerous mass. So it's better to do mammogram if you have any of the symptoms, and find immediately do the find out this and completely treat it. So you can see here, actually fine needle aspiration cytology is also safe and quick method of diagnosis of lesion of breast. So if you have any signs, then you can do this fine needle aspiration. They will pick a needle into the skin so that if there is any lesion, then easily we can find it out. So this is the final part here. You have retracted nipple is a sign of tumor in breast, and size of mammary gland can be increased by putting an implant inside the gland. And dress designers use skills to enhance the size of mammary gland. Efforts are made to expose its various quadrants. And cancer of mammary glands is the most common cancer in female of all ages, and it's most frequently seen in postmenopausal females due to lack of estrogen. So estrogen is saving many female from this cancer. So whenever they are undergoing menopause, the estrogen is reducing. So because of that, there is high chances of breast cancer in postmenopausal females. Self-examination of mammary gland is the only way for early diagnosis and appropriate treatment. So this is the best treatment than other doing that. So before get this, prevention is always better. So this is all about our pectoral region. Next we'll start with the axilla.